Passive investing was supposed to solve investing. No stock picking, no market timing, no expensive fund managers charging you a small fortune just to underperform the market. The pitch was simple. Buy the entire market, hold it for decades, and let compounding do the work. And for millions of people, it worked. In fact, passive investing may be one of the greatest financial innovations ever created. It gave ordinary investors access to diversified portfolios. It reduced fees. It eliminated many of the emotional mistakes people make. And over time, it beat the majority of professional fund managers. But hidden inside that success is a question almost nobody is asking. What happens when passive investing becomes too successful? Because today, trillions of dollars are flowing into financial markets automatically. Not because someone analyzed a company, not because an investor believes a stock is undervalued, not because a portfolio manager spent weeks researching a business. The money flows in because an algorithm says so, and that might be changing the market itself. To understand why, we need to go back to a time when investing looked very different. For most of modern financial history, markets were dominated by active investors, fund managers, analysts, research teams, people whose entire job was to figure out what a company was worth. They read earnings reports, built financial models, spoke with management teams, and then made decisions based on their conclusions. If they thought a stock was undervalued, they bought it. If they thought it was overvalued, they sold it. Millions of independent decisions help determine prices. That process is called price discovery. It's one of the most important functions in any financial market because prices move when investors constantly debate what something is worth. But then something changed. In 1976, a man named John Bogle launched the first retail index fund. At the time, the idea sounded ridiculous. Instead of trying to beat the market, why not just buy the market? Many professionals hated the concept. Some called it un-American. Others said it would never work. But over the next several decades, investors voted with their money, and the results were impossible to ignore. Most active managers consistently underperformed. Meanwhile, low-cost index funds kept winning. Slowly at first, then all at once. Today, passive investing dominates global markets. Trillions of dollars sit inside index funds and ETFs. Every month, billions more are added. Retirement accounts, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, institutional portfolios, all feeding the same machine. And that's where things start to get interesting. Because passive investing doesn't make decisions the same way active investors do. An index fund doesn't ask whether a company is expensive. It doesn't ask whether management is competent. It doesn't ask whether future growth justifies the valuation. It simply follows rules. And one of those rules may be more important than anything else. Market capitalization. Market capitalization is simply the value of a company. Share price multiplied by shares outstanding. The larger the company, the larger its market cap. And in most major indexes, the larger the company becomes, the more weight it receives. That sounds harmless. But follow the logic. Imagine two companies. Company A is worth $1 trillion. Company B is worth $100 billion. If money enters an index fund tracking both companies, significantly more money automatically goes to Company A. Not because it's a better business, not because it's growing faster, not because investors think it's cheaper, simply because it's already larger. Now imagine Company A rises another 20%. Its market capitalization grows. Its weight inside the index increases, which means future passive inflows allocate even more money to it. The bigger it becomes, the more money it receives. The more money it receives, the bigger it becomes. And suddenly you've created a feedback loop, a self-reinforcing cycle. Now, this doesn't mean Company A is a bad company. Far from it. Many of the largest companies in the world are extraordinary businesses. That's not the point. The point is that demand is increasingly being created automatically. And when demand becomes automatic, strange things can happen. To see this in action, we don't have to look very far. Let's talk about the Magnificent Seven: Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta, Alphabet, Tesla. Over the past decade, these companies have become giants. Some of them genuinely transformed entire industries. But something else happened along the way. Their growing size gave them larger weights in major indexes, which attracted more passive flows, which increased their weights even further. Today, a surprisingly large percentage of major index performance comes from just a handful of companies. The market appears diversified, but beneath the surface, concentration has quietly increased. And this creates a fascinating question. What happens when most investors own the same companies? Because passive investing doesn't distribute money equally. It concentrates money according to size. The winners receive more capital. The losers receive less. Over time, that can create enormous gaps. And the larger those gaps become, the more dependent the market becomes on a small number of stocks continuing to perform. This is where supporters of passive investing usually step in. And to be fair, they make a strong argument. They'll point out that passive investing simply reflects reality. If a company becomes more valuable, it should represent a larger portion of the market. And they're right. But critics argue that the relationship isn't completely one-sided anymore. Because once passive flows become large enough, they stop merely reflecting prices. They begin influencing them. Not because investors are irrational, but because the system itself creates mechanical demand. And mechanical demand behaves differently from human demand. Humans can change their minds. Algorithms follow instructions. The distinction matters. Because markets are ultimately systems of incentives, and whenever large amounts of money follow the same rules, unintended consequences can emerge. We've seen similar dynamics before, not necessarily with passive investing, but with nearly every major financial innovation in history. Mortgage-backed securities, collateralized debt obligations, portfolio insurance, each began with reasonable assumptions, each solved real problems, and each created risks that weren't fully understood until much later. Again, this doesn't mean passive investing is bad. It simply means every system has trade-offs, and the larger a system becomes, the more important those trade-offs become. Now let's take this one step further. Imagine a market correction. Nothing catastrophic, just a normal decline. Investors become nervous. Some decide to sell their index funds. Money starts flowing out. What happens next? The process works in reverse. Index funds sell according to their weights. Large companies experience large selling pressure. Prices fall, weights decline, more money exits, more selling occurs. The same machine that creates automatic buying can also create automatic selling. And that's what makes this conversation so important. Because passive investing has never been tested at its current scale through every possible market environment. The system continues to grow. Assets continue to increase, and concentration continues to rise. Meanwhile, fewer active investors remain to perform traditional price discovery. Think about that for a second. If passive investors don't determine prices, and active investors are becoming a smaller share of the market, who exactly is setting prices? The answer is still active investors, for now. But they're doing so with a shrinking share of overall capital, which means each active decision carries more responsibility than ever before. Some researchers compare this to a city. Imagine a city where everyone follows GPS directions. At first, traffic improves. Everything becomes more efficient. But eventually, if everyone follows identical instructions, congestion begins appearing in unexpected places. The solution creates new challenges, not because the technology failed, but because success changed behavior. Passive investing may be experiencing something similar. Its success has encouraged more adoption. More adoption has increased its influence. And increased influence is creating questions that didn't exist 20 years ago. The irony is that none of this means passive investing will stop working tomorrow. In fact, it may continue working for decades. Most investors are still likely better off owning diversified index funds than trying to outsmart markets. That's not really the debate. The debate is whether passive investing is beginning to alter the structure of financial markets in ways we don't fully understand. And the honest answer is that nobody knows. Because we've never been here before. Never before have trillions of dollars been allocated according to the same set of rules. Never before have a handful of companies carried such enormous influence over major indexes. And never before has so much capital moved with so little regard for valuation. Maybe everything works perfectly. Maybe concerns are overblown. Or maybe we're watching a subtle transformation unfold in real time. One that future investors will look back on and recognize as a turning point. Because the real story isn't whether passive investing is good or bad. That's too simplistic. The real story is how success changes systems. And passive investing has been incredibly successful. Perhaps too successful. The market was once dominated by investors asking a simple question. What is this company worth?